You go.
Hello everybody, my name is Kaitlyn and I will be doing a presentation over killer whale captivity. We will be primarily focusing on the effects and a proposed solution to the captivity of orcas. So just a quick outline of this presentation. We're going to start with our intro, just going to go into our physical and emotional effects of captivity on killer whales. Then the effects on genetic diversity, the 5-step plan, and then a conclusion. So just to start off, 177 orcas have died in captivity. That is up to date in 2022. So with SeaWorld's plan and everything, there could be more. Introduction. So our orcas are our main goal today, also known as killer whales. They are a very institutional role to SeaWorld and to many other main aquariums that use them. So taking out killer whales is kind of hard for ecotourism and the companies that bring them in to quote unquote save and release. What is captivity? Dictionary.com defines captivity as the state or period of being held, imprisoned, or confined. For animals, it's taken from the ocean and put into these enclosures for our convenience. So first, our physical effects. One, the size of the orcas has just increased, showing that the pod size in the ocean is relatively bigger than the ones that are bred in captivity. Then the dorsal droop is the second thing that is mostly known for a physical effect of the orcas. You can see it right here. It's the droop of their top dorsal fin. This happens because of the cartilage starts to break down because of them being too exposed to the surface. So the sun and heat rays basically just causes that cartilage to collapse, which causes the droop, which is not good for their health because it's supposed to be straight up. Then we have our emotional effects. Overall, the well-being. So the first study that I looked at was with the killer whale in Florida back in 1997 that had basically banged its head against the enclosure until it basically had a hematoma in its brain and killed itself. And so it's shown that the physical effects leads with aggression, and that them being mistreated in captivity is why their well-being overall has been seen to decrease. With captivity, you don't get their bonds. Orcas have really strong bonds in the ocean and usually go around as pods, and with this you're limiting the amount of orcas you have in one area. So usually there's about 1 to 2 in each tank, and that's not enough for them to really grow and be together. The next thing is stress. So captivity causes stress. According to Lori Morano and her colleagues in an article in May 2019, being in these small tanks in high stress areas causes a lack of boredom and sensory deprivation, which creates chronic stress that has shown to lead to system dysfunction and disease and death overall. So stress has been a big factor on their emotional well-being. And then the next is aggression. So a physiological toll of stress/unhappiness, their well-being, has led to increased aggression, causing the death of Don Branchew and more injury and death to other trainers. So that was the first SeaWorld trainer to die at SeaWorld. It was shown in Blackfish as the main reason why we shouldn't have them in these pods or tanks, and why the trainers shouldn't be in the water for them. And since this event had occurred, there isn't much trainers ever being in the waters with the orcas. And then genetic diversity. So captive breeding reduces their genetic diversity, which reduces their overall fitness. Fitness is basically the ability for these orcas to pass on their genetic material to their offspring, and how fit the animal in this case is how fit the orca will determine its ability to evolve. And so keeping them in these pods, like tanks, and captively breeding them, we're basically just taking out all their natural like instincts and survival instincts. So the efforts to put them back in like the ocean is like low because they don't have those natural instincts that are put into them. So it's overall just taking away their fitness. And so obviously their natural instincts, so makes it harder to put them back in when everybody's like proposed to try to just like release them. This is my 5-step solution that I propose to hopefully kind of release the orcas from captivity. So the first step is to like bring no new orcas in captivity. We have to stop bringing them in the first place, because this is how it all started, was that they were injured or they were needing new orcas for their shows. So they would keep bringing them in, which kept bringing in new orcas. So by bringing in no new orcas, then it cuts off the flow of orcas that are put in it. And that only leaves really the ones that have been in there too long in captivity that can't be put back. Like if it's like a year or two, their natural instincts of like survival aspects aren't really as decreased. So they have the possibility to be released back into the ocean, but these ones that are like straight captively like bred into it and been there for years upon years, it makes it harder for them to like be released. And then captive breeding must end. So SeaWorld did stop their captive breeding program after Blackfish had released, because of the numbers of people that stopped going from Blackfish and realized how bad captive breeding is on these species, and how it actually affects their fitness. And they saw like that by like stopping bringing in more, that they were making the public more happy, so you're getting general wellness to them. And then the next thing would to be set up reserves. So after we stop these two, we could set up sanctuary/reserves for the captive orcas. This way they can at least live out the rest of their days in some ocean area. So the idea with that is that like on the coastal areas where there's like a good enough depth for them, we could basically create a netting or some kind of thing, some kind of reserve structure. So they're still back in the ocean, but they're not in these captive like bred tanks, which could overall help their physical and emotional well-being. And with this, it would hopefully promote ecotourism, because if you put them in coastal areas where they're able to be seen by the public, then you're still getting like money from it, and that money can be put back into programs to basically help them either get their survival instincts back or natural instincts back from being in these reserves. And by promoting ecotourism, we're not only helping ourselves, but we're helping them as well. And then hopefully by doing all of these 4 steps, we can end the captivity of orcas. Okay. In conclusion, I discussed why orcas should not be kept in captivity through the physical and emotional effects, and how releasing them back into the ocean or my step-down approach can possibly solve orca captivity. What I want you to take away from this is to support businesses that are trying to free orcas, because there are many out there fighting for the same goal of this 5-step approach. And we have the internet, so you can go onto Google and find many orca conservation programs. So by contributing to those, we're one step closer to contributing to orca captivity being stopped. These are my resources, references.